Welcome to the Thriving Soulpreneur Podcast. This is a space where we talk about human design, spirituality, and neuroscience, all applied to business and money. My purpose is to help struggling solopreneurs to run sustainable businesses, to become financially resilient, and to create powerful change within their communities and beyond. I am your host, Andrea Niño de Guzman, a numbers girl and neuro geek who left the corporate world to do what she does best, to catalyze transformations. I am thrilled and honored to have you here, and I really hope to serve you in the best way possible. Hello, welcome to this new episode of the Thriving Soulpreneur Podcast. It's been a minute since I was here, right? I think it's been almost 2 months since my last episode. Basically, I've been meaning to share with you about what has been going on. But I guess I just haven't found the words or the right way to share it because it's been a very intense journey. I think if I could describe it briefly, for about 60 days, so basically since mid-April up until essentially last week, my whole life was suspended. I entered into what we call the liminal space, where, my business was put on hold. I started questioning many things about my journey, about the type of work that I want to do, about who I want to work with, about the reason behind my work, why I'm doing things. It was also a very deep and even painful period where a lot was happening in my relationship with my husband, with my children, family in general, spiritually as well. It was just a period of deep questioning, shedding a lot of layers, unnecessary layers, a lot of healing, forgiving as well. And I've since emerged, slowly been emerging from this, unexpected holding period. And here I am. So, today I really feel called to share a personal experience, that I recently experienced that I think could help many, especially since we are at this stage where, if you're listening to this right now, it's 2023. We're basically coming to the middle point of the year. And this is where a lot of people start evaluating, how far did I get along with my goals? Where am I in my business? Am I, on target with my income, with how many clients I want to have, with my launches? And I am willing to bet that maybe 9 out of 10 times you're not on target. Maybe you are way behind than what you would expect it to, or where you would expect it to be. And that can obviously create a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and overwhelm and can totally, put you in this mode of overdoing, overthinking, of anxiety, of kind of like, your business is on fire. You have to deal with it. You have to manage it so that you can guarantee yourself that you're going to hit your targets, especially if we're talking about numeric, income targets by the end of the year. And something very similar happened to me. So I started the year with, very ambitious goals for myself. I said that I was going to double my income this year. This year was going to be the year where I was going to pay off a huge part of my debt. And I have a very big deadline coming up, which is August of this year. So I was certain that by August of this year, I was going to make so much money, or enough money to pay this big chunk of my debt. And basically, thanks to that, live in greater peace. And the reality is that it's now the end of June and we're halfway down through the year, and I am nowhere near that goal. I haven't, for a bunch of reasons, I haven't made as much money as I thought I would have by this time. My business has not grown exponentially like I was hoping it would. And again, very, very valid reasons. Just like the one I explained or that I was telling you about, for 2 months almost, I was up in the air where I wasn't generating any income. I wasn't showing up. I was barely doing the bare minimum because my mind and my spirit, I feel my soul needed to be somewhere else for that period of time. But that's, I don't see it as an excuse. I just see it as something like that, something shifted in me and it was necessary for me to be where I'm at today. And you could have your reasons too, right? But um, in in this case, or in the experience that I'm sharing, I have this deadline coming up that I didn't set. It was set for me. And this looming deadline gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the week goes by, because I see it like as a monster of, I used to have 8 weeks to be able to make this money, to raise this money. And now I have 4 weeks, and then I'm going to have 2 weeks, and then I'm going to have one. And obviously, as I think about it, all I can, like, my mind just goes into this very dark place of, okay, but what if you don't raise enough money? What if you run out of time? And I can definitely feel the stress. I can definitely feel the anxiety, the worry, what happens if I don't make it? What are others going to say? What is my mom going to say? What is, my partner? And the more that I picture, the more that I imagine this doom scenario, it becomes like a bigger monster in my mind that I just want to run away from, right? And hopefully, and like pretend that it's going to end on its own without me dealing with it. But I know that that's not true. So I just wanted to be very open and upfront about what's going on in my life, because, we tend to see online the success of, doing business online, the success of online business coaches, people who are making millions, and it's great for them, people who are selling. But we very rarely see the struggles behind. It's not just earning an income. There's another side of money, and it could be expenses. It could be a family emergency. In my case, it's that. It could be many things, but I feel like it's really important to also speak about this openly, so that we can share a more, an honest picture of what it looks like when you're building a business on your own, of what it looks like when you're dealing with changes and uncertainty, and even what it looks like in this journey of discovering yourself and figuring out who you are and what you stand for, what you want to work towards while building a business on your own. So anyway, that's a preface of what I wanted to share with you. But that's not it. What I really wanted to share with you is what happened last night, because last night I had a very magical experience. I connected to, I don't know what this energy is. For me, it's an energy that just comes. I've been told it's the energy of unconditional love, because every time I connect with it, I just feel surrounded. I feel this warmth around me. I feel this deep sense of love, but like, it's a love that I've never experienced before for another human. It's a feeling of being loved, of being held, of being supported. It's such a pure and beautiful energy that it always just makes me cry, because it's so intense and so beautiful and warm. So I was in meditation, and I just wanted to contemplate on what I was experiencing in that moment of, naming the stress, being in the anxiety, being in the worry, and reconnecting with my body as I was, thinking about all these, this experience or this fear of this event coming up. So that's what I want to share with you. So, how it started was by me just, taking deep breaths and just recognizing and naming those fears. And I listed all of them out, and I said them out loud. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to make these payments. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time. I'm afraid of what my mom is going to think. I'm afraid of the pressure that I'm going to feel. I'm afraid of letting others down because they have this expectation on me. I'm afraid of what others are going to think about me because I am failing. And I just went out and and listed everything, right? And it was kind of like having a conversation with God or source and just being very upfront and honest about everything that I was thinking and feeling. And in that process, as I was having this conversation and, and just, or maybe like this one-sided conversation where I was like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm afraid of. Um, a male guide showed up in front of me, and I could see like two paths. Like he was showing me two paths. And it was like as I was watching a future movie of my life, right? And he showed me on my right hand, I had the scenario of failure. And I could see myself like coming at the end of July with not enough money to pay off this debt. I could see myself, experiencing the guilt, the shame, the judgment, the fear of having failed. And I could feel the judgment, not just my own judgment, but everybody else of, and of, how could you let this happen? If you had your mom scold you once or your parents scold you, that's how it felt. Of you should have been more responsible. How could you let this happen? You're not being responsible with your family, with your children, with your business. You should be looking for a job. All that stuff came into my mind as I saw that scenario, and I could really feel it in my body. And then he showed me the other path, which was towards my left. And that was a scenario of success. And it was a scenario where in a matter of weeks, I had made more money, more than what I really needed to pay off. So if like for an American comparison purposes, it's as if I needed like $10,000 by the end of July. And in one scenario, I was only able to make $1,000. And in the second scenario, I was able to make $20,000 in the same month. So you can see the differences, right? And when you think about $1,000 and $20,000. And when I saw this second scenario, I could see myself rejecting it, like automatically labeling it as something like totally improbable, highly unlikely, like, yeah, that happens for others, but it's not going to happen. It's never happened for me. It's not for me. Right. And then I went into this really interesting conversation with this guide. And this is what I want to share with you of, the conversation that we had. And he basically said to me, you will experience fear either way. No matter what you choose, you're going to experience fear. So that's unavoidable. If you go down the right-hand side, you're going to experience the fear of letting others down, the fear of their judgment, and you want to avoid the shame and the guilt of that at all costs. Now, if you go down the left-hand side on the other scenario, you fear yourself and your power. What if you could make $20,000 in a month? What if that would be possible? And just the thought of it makes you fear it because you've never experienced it before. You fear it because that is new to you. That is because you don't trust. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust that it can happen. And therefore, you automatically choose to shut down this option. Now, you've been down this other path before, the path of struggle. You already know what it's like not to make enough. You already know what it's like to miss a big deadline. You already know what it's like to experience shame, guilt, and judgment. You already know what it's like. You've already experienced all of this, and you already know what to expect from this experience. Now, he said, I cannot tell you which path to choose. You're at a crossroad. You have free will. Neither of these paths are wrong. They are both right. They will both teach you something about yourself. Maybe the how they teach you what you learn is going to be different. But your awareness has brought you to a crossroads, and now you have to decide. And it all comes down to choice and commitment. What will you choose to commit to? Will you choose to commit to the struggle, or will you choose to commit to trust and surrender? And remember that you're going to experience fear in both, and that's okay, because there's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is always going to bring you information. However, it's better not to stay in fear. It's better to stay in trust. And know that trust is the opposite of fear. So what will you choose? This is something that you just can't commit to once and be done with it. You have to commit to this daily, hourly, even minute by minute. If you decide to go down the path of trust and surrender, you have to commit to constantly reminding yourself, to constantly making that choice every minute and reminding yourself of your power of choice. Don't forget your power of choice. So what will you choose? To stay in fear or to stay in trust? And that was the end of the message that I received. It was very powerful. Obviously, I didn't choose anything in that moment, but it made me really think about where I am headed, especially as we're starting. We're all starting a new month in a few more days, and since receiving this, I've become more mindful of my choices. Today, it's not just my choices and the actions that I take, but also, the choices of what thoughts do I choose? Do I allow to just, entertain, to be in my awareness? Where am I putting my attention on? There have been many times where, these thoughts of worry creep up of, oh my goodness, I have only 3 more weeks. I have 2 more weeks. I had to make these payments. I had to do this. And what if I don't have enough, and what's been happening since I've had this conversation with this guide, I began to simply just acknowledge these, we're going to call them quote unquote negative thoughts. Okay. Or worrisome thoughts. I simply acknowledge them. I acknowledge the feeling, but what has shifted is that I no longer choose to stay in them. It's a choice. This has helped me bring back the power to myself, where I choose to focus on something else. I'm no longer like a victim of my thoughts. I choose to move my attention and my awareness to something different that can help me work towards my goals, that can help me work towards what I want to create, or the reality that I want to create. And I've also started thinking more about what trust means. And trust is a huge theme in the work that I do with my clients. In fact, it's one of the foundational pillars of our work. We work with 9 resiliency keys, and the first 3, the essence of the work is, connecting back to your self-love, your self-worth, and self-trust. And trust doesn't only mean trusting others. Yes, it does mean trusting source and its divine timing, but it's also equally important to trust yourself, to choose to trust yourself on a daily basis. And I think this is one of the most difficult things, because we've been conditioned to look for that external validation, to see, to only trust ourselves when we see that what we are doing is, what we're doing is creating an impact or is having results in our external reality, in the outside world, right? And until we don't have that confirmation, that external confirmation, it's more difficult to connect, to operate from the state of deep trust in ourselves, right? And if you are in a stage in your business where, like me, I am starting to grow more. I am, pushing my income boundaries a lot more. I am connecting with people differently. I'm doing a lot of new things constantly. It's very difficult to connect with, to see if what I'm doing is going to work or not. It's very difficult to see the end result, because I've never been there. So I don't know what to expect. And therefore, it's easier for me to stay in my self-doubt, for thinking that I'm not doing enough, that I should be doing more, constantly questioning myself, or even judging myself, or being very harsh with me, than in staying in my sense of self-trust. And I think that, I'm very grateful right now that all of this is happening, because that is it's given me the awareness of not just of what I'm going through, but what thousands of other solopreneurs are also going through when they're going through deep periods of change where they don't know, or they can't see the end result because they've never been there. They've never created it before. So that's why I feel like self-trust um is really important, and it's trusting, and it's constantly moving your attention back to trusting yourself, trusting your skills, trusting your gifts, trusting your guidance, trusting your experience, trusting your intuition, trusting your ideas. There's so much about us that we can rely on. And instead of constantly looking for that external validation, or check of, yes, you did it right, therefore you can trust yourself. So, what I'm thinking now is, how can I stay more in this energy of trust? How can I constantly, and how can I make this a more unconscious action where I'm just automatically trusting instead of automatically distrusting myself? Because, it's very different to say, I open myself up to receiving $20,000 this month because I know I know I'm worthy, and I just know that it's going to happen. No questions asked. Like, it's just a fact. Just like the sun rises, I'm going to have, the money that I need. And it's going to come to me, and I don't have any doubts about it. Versus thinking that way and feeling that way and knowing that with certainty, versus thinking about making $20,000 in a month and then automatically wondering, yeah, but will anybody be interested in what I have to offer? Will anybody buy? And just connecting to the struggle of having to put all these weird messages, and having people, not reply to your posts, not reply to your emails, or wondering or thinking like how hard you have to work to make it happen. And all of a sudden it feels very heavy. In the first scenario, I'm not questioning myself, and I'm not questioning source. I'm not questioning anything. I'm just completely trusting that this is going to happen. In the second scenario, I'm submerged in this constant cycle of self-doubt. So that's why I'm actively choosing, as of today, to live in a state of trust. I choose to trust myself. I choose to trust and believe in my dreams. I choose to trust my skills, my gifts. I choose to trust even the messages that I receive, like the ones that I'm sharing with you. I choose to trust that I'm not alone, that I'm guided, and that everything is going to work out for my highest good and the highest good of all. And with that certainty, I know that everything is going to work out. And I'm going to take the ball and put it in your court and ask you, with what I've shared and with where you're at in your business today, with how things are going on in your life, maybe even in your relationships, in your own connection with source, the connection they have with yourself, what will you choose? Will you choose to stay in fear? Will you choose to stay in trust? What about yourself do you choose to trust? Maybe right now you can't trust everything about yourself, but maybe there's a tiny little thing that you can trust about yourself. Maybe there is that tiny little thing that can tell you that you can trust source, that you can trust your guidance, that you can trust your intuition. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. But what is all or nothing is our choices, is what we decide, because that can never be taken away from us. We're constantly choosing. Even when it feels like we're not, we are constantly choosing. So what will you choose? What will you choose to help you move closer to what you want? All right. So that's that. I really hope that you found this helpful. Obviously, if you want to explore your experience with self-trust, you can always reach out to me through an email, through a DM on Instagram, on Facebook. I am more than happy to pull up your chart and see, look into self-trust and see what's going on. What are the possible triggers? What what could be triggering any moments of self-doubt, and maybe even share a tool or tip or two that can help you move from fear and can help you stay in trust should you choose to do so. And I think that what I also want you to remember is that who you are being in business is just, or maybe even more important than what you are doing in business. And we tend to forget that. Who you are being in business is more important than what you are doing in business. And I feel that trust is a great way to start that journey into this new way of being that will help you reach your own version of success, whatever that looks like for you. So if this resonated for you, let me know. Send me a message. Share this if you feel like there's somebody who's also struggling financially, who's also struggling with any fears around not making enough, not doing enough, or who, feels like they're falling behind or judging themselves for not having accomplished so much in their business so far. Share this episode with them. I feel like it's time to start creating this ripple effect and sharing the message across so that more people can move back into their own power, then can choose to stay in trust and not stay in fear. I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. If everything falls in alignment, I will be back next week with a new episode. And if not, everything's okay. Everything is flowing. I am no longer pushing myself to perform in a specific way. I'm actually just staying more in the energy of what it wants to be expressed. Like today, this was a very important message that I just felt that I needed to share with all of you. And obviously, my DMs are open, always open for your comments, for your questions, for your suggestions, and anything that you want to share. I'm sending you so much love, peace and abundance and light your way. And I will catch you on the next episode. Take care.